This is the Cricket Betting Podcast. I'm Ed Hawkins, the only podcast which tells you exactly what happens in the Ashes. This is the ultimate betting guide to the Ashes, and it's brought to you by 7bet.co.uk, a fresh sports betting brand that offers such features as early payout, bet builder, betting insight, ACCA boost, and more. Go to 7bet.co.uk and experience world-class betting yourself. Richard Mann of sportinglife.com, ready to burn.
I'm ready to burn. We're nearly there, Ed.
We're nearly there and already smoking. Paul Krishnamurty is plus 30 on his best bets. Hello, Paul.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm not smoking live on air though.
Well done. Best bets do come at the end of the show. They are the best bets for the 5-test Ashes series. In this podcast, we tell you who wins it, or maybe it's a draw, picks on the correct score markets, what the pitches are going to do in Paul Krishnamurty's ground guide. We've got more in-play Ashes hot spots. We've got top Australia bat and bowler picks for the series. We've got listener queries, and we're going to tell you what the weather's going to do as well. So let's start where we mean to go on. The Ashes starts Friday, 21st November in Perth. Australia 4-7 on general. England 23-10, 365 spread X Sporting and AK bets, and the draw is 9s with AK bets. Series handicap. I know the boys like series handicaps and handicap for matches. England 1.5, 8 to 11 Betfred Quinn bet. Australia giving up 1.5, 11 to 10 Betfred, Bet Victor, MGM Star Bet, Star Sports and Virgin. Some interesting little prices there for you. But let's start with you, Richard. Still plenty of time for things to change. England's only warm-up game is starting on the Thursday. Is that a mistake? One warm-up game?
I think it's the modern way, the new normal, dare I say it. I know there's been a lot of opposition to it, but I think that's just what to expect now. You only have to look at someone like Shubman Gill, his recent schedule, West Indies series, flew to Australia, ODI series, T20 series, now back for the South Africa tests on Friday. It's just the way it is. And I actually think coming up against the Lions, if it is England's first team up against the Lions, a little bit on that in a sec, but it should be good, strong opposition. You've got quality players who've earned the right to be there, and they'll all be hungry with a chance, hopefully, to potentially force their way into the main squad should injuries arrive, which we'd expect so with particularly the fast bowlers. So I think in theory it should be a good hard warm up for them, better than playing an Australian select. And let's be honest, the Australians could just roll out a pub team to make sure it's not a competitive warm up. So this potentially is the best option. They could have maybe played another game. The only thing I'm slightly concerned about, and I've just heard on the grapevine from someone in the know, that they might mix and match the teams, and I would be against that personally. I'd like to see England just pick their best top 7, and then assuming Bethel's out of the mix, he bat 3 for the Lions, and almost just try and replicate a first-class game. I don't want to see people just batting here, there, and everywhere, and it being a jolly up. But as long as they take it seriously, some good cricketers in there. Matt Fisher, Sonny Baker. I mean, Jordan Cox would have debuted last year, were it not for injury. So hopefully it'll be good enough.
Interesting. Don't like the sound of that at all. Paul, sort of a price watch. Bear in mind, England have won 3 of the last 25 tests down under. Anything untoward in those prices? But I mean, how have the layers actually gone about pricing up this series? Is that historic form coming into it, or I mean, how much are they putting faith in what they've heard about pitches?
I think it has to be. I mean, and understandably, I mean, look, you wouldn't have, if you bet in England at 23-10 every away Ashes series during our lifetimes, you'd be well down at this point. So the market does respect the fact that England have a better chance than usual. But I guess bookies and punters are both going to be scarred by recent Ashes records. And generally speaking, we have been terrible over there. Personally, I'm quite happy with England's price. I think it's pretty generous. It's pretty fair. And I would say that despite all of this, I'm not a patriotic person. I don't care who wins as long as I've got a bet on it. And I've never got into an Ashes and been disappointed with England's performance out there. The only time I ever thought we had a chance, we did well. We won it. And I think we've got a good chance. I couldn't back Australia at 4-7. on everything we know about them and on recent performances.
Yes, a good disclaimer, actually, Paul. I'll absolutely join you on that. I am not an England fan, and absolutely sign up to that mantra. I am an England fan. I've got a bet on them, but otherwise not.
Exactly.
So we're not biased. I mean, Rich, you're a bit of an England fan, aren't you?
Ultimately, when my money's down, nobody else thicker skin than me. Look, when my money's down, that's all that matters. To be honest, I kind of just come in and out of it. I get affection for teams. I mean, there's been Australian teams. I actually didn't mind the Michael Clark team before Mitchell Johnson went awful, and I didn't particularly like that England side with Peterson and Strauss when they started falling out. So I was actually happy to see England fall off their perch a little bit then. I'm not particularly warm to either of these two sides, to be honest. I can't say the Australians fill me with warmth and some of England's comments and the way they've carried on the last 12 months. I like the way they play, but there have been occasions where I thought, oh, this is not for me.
Yes, England are a great punting prospect because they give everybody a chance and in play. Well, we'll be talking about in our preview show for the first test. That's next week, but this is the series stuff. Before we can really work out who's going to win the series or any earn is going to be retained, we need to work out what the pitches are like. It's absolutely crucial. Did a VIP chat on our VIP forum for subscribers the other night. There's a lot of talk about pitches. We asked some mailbag questions for the show. Eddie Rivers asks, what will the pitches do? I can tell you that against India last year, this is probably where the idea that these Australia pitches are more sporting sort of comes from. One test lasted 2.5 days and there were 3 over in 3. I wouldn't be worrying about what bean counters are saying about 4-day tests for economic reasons. Cricket Australia did lose a bit of money last year, but they will not be factoring that into how they place orders for pitches. Cricket Australia want to win above anything else, so don't get bogged down in that. Pretty much most people think it's going to be bowlers on top. But let's go to Paul. Betting headlines for the Perth Grounder and then the day-night in Brisbane, Paul. What, you got any angles there?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm going to say that for all of these grounds, I'm using a 5-year study sample, as usual. Now, that means 23 matches, 5 at all the other grounds, 3 at Perth. And firstly, a couple of very quick points that apply all of them pretty much. 14 out of 23 matches produced under 1,000 total match runs. So I'm very interested to see where bookies price it up, because that's usually a lot higher than that. Second broad point, I think that 400 plus first innings runs is going to be too short repeatedly, and I think under 200 is going to be too long repeatedly. Right, so just moving on to Perth then. Small sample, there's only 3 matches, so I'm not sure how much you take from these extremes. 1 in 3 first innings was 400 plus, 1 in 3 first innings was under 200. One thing I'm trying to do here for all these grounds is try and find an unders overs line where half of the first innings come in over, half of them come in under. At Perth, that is somewhere between 272 to 282 on what we've got. So again, that's probably points to an unders in the first innings, because I expect it will be higher than that. Now, interesting characteristic at Perth is this is the one pitch where it gets easier to bat, or so it seems. India hit 487 in the 3rd innings last year, and West Indies hit 333 in the 4th innings in 2022, which must have been a huge price. Both of these grounds, got to be said, if you want to draw, you're going to need quite a lot of rain. I think they're both result grounds. Brisbane's a day-nighter, so that trend's accentuated. Across all the games at Brisbane, only 1 in 5 first innings is 400 plus, and only 1 in 5 is under 200, but that's probably going to would work out higher, hit lower here because of the day-nighter. The par line would be 290 to 310. Again, probably should be lower because it's day-night. Interesting trend here at Brisbane. 9 out of 17 top batsmen were 5 or higher, and 4 out of 17 was 7 or higher. So could be one for a bit of value. And interesting here, Travis Head has 3 man of the matches at Brisbane in that sample.
Lovely stuff. I'm pretty sure in play we'll be looking at day night in Brisbane and be going certainly lower order batters, third and fourth innings, top bats. Chris Wokes, Rich, didn't he win for us last Ashes Tour Down Under?
Yeah, that was happy days.
Happy days. Adelaide third test could well be runs. It's not the day night test, as Paul's told you. This time round, the MCG has been won for the bowlers. Bowling 6 for 7, of course, was the famous ground and the famous line building the statue. Paul, what you got on these two grounds, Adelaide and the G?
Well, first of all, again, results 10 out of 10 results in the last 5 years on these two grounds. Adelaide is a bit of a problem because 4 of the 5 matches in the sample were day nighters. Historically, this was really good for batting this ground. It was a bat first and watch the pitch deteriorate. And it has been a road in the Big Bash. And in that sample, you've got in the first innings a 511 and a 473. So you would probably say it's high. However, the only day match in our sample was against West Indies. It finished on day 3 morning with a highest score of 283. And the previous day match here was in 2018 against India. Highest score was 307. So perhaps it isn't quite a road. Again, Travis Head, 3 man of the matches here. As for the MCG, definitely a result ground. Only 1 out of 5 matches even made it into day 5. 30% of first innings scores are under 200, so you're almost certainly going to get some value there. And again, only 20% of the first innings are 400 plus. The run line here is bigger than the others. The first innings run line, based on half of them finishing over and half under, is 268 to 317, so that's probably about right.
Right, and finish me off with the SCG, Paul. What you got?
Well, this is the one you've got to keep a draw in your pocket here for the last game or your series bets, because 3 out of the last 5 games here were draws. And this has always struck me. I'm pretty sure that this would be backed up over the years, over many decades. You're much likely to get rain and very overcast conditions here at the SCG than the other grounds. And that's critical to the scoring. You can get we've seen very, very big scores when the sun's shining and very, very low scores when it's overcast. The pitch generally deteriorates. 300 or more is hit 40% of the time, so it should be a 6 to 4 shot in the first innings. 400 again, only 20% of the time, should be a 4 to 1 chance. The par line here is 295 to 298 in the first innings. And finally, on the Man of the Match award, Usman Khawaja has won it twice.
Alrighty. I think David Warner said draw in Sydney as well. We are guessing on the weather, but I have been onto the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia, and they report it is a hotter than average summer, Richard and Paul, but also a higher than average rainfall in and around the Sydney area. So we're kind of on that on the right line with Sydney being most likely venue for a draw. Richard, is that what you're thinking, that the draw is most likely at the SCG?
Yeah, I mean, you could actually go off, Paul said 3 out of the last 5, but I think it's 6 out of the last 11 at the SCG test matches have been draws, including the last Ashes test here as well. I mean, as bad as England were on that last tour, they still got out with a draw in Sydney. Everyone, including Warner, says rain at the SCG. Paul's right, Adelaide's dead interesting because it's not a day night at this time. It's just generally a decent deck. And I think if Australia were bowling last, it does tend to spin here days 4 and 5, and you'd fancy Lyon to bowl a team out. But if England were bowling last and say Australia needed to bat a day and a half to get out with a draw or whatever scenario, I'm not sure I'd fancy Bashir to bowl them out. And you might, I mean, it wasn't Bashir at Old Trafford this summer against India, but as we saw, England didn't have the spin to force a result on a flat deck at Old Trafford against India, and potentially somewhere like Adelaide, it could be a repeat performance.
Lovely stuff. A reminder to sub up for our VIP tipping channel in the comments section below. We're in profit Thank you very much. You can also get access to the VIP chat room, and with plenty of benefits there because people are putting up their own tips and they've got their own strategies, and you can learn together. We'll also be doing more of our Q&A sessions throughout the Ashes series, no doubt. On that VIP betting channel, in-play tips throughout the Ashes series, and we're going to be working extremely hard. And to that end, the next in our series of Ashes in-play hotspots. There was one last week, the Joe Root LBW, next method of dismissal, when you see that ball starting shaping in. So more of these coming throughout our preview shows. Rich or Paul, have you got our Ashes in-play hotspot for us?
Richard raises his hand.
Go on,
Mentioned
Rich.
this the last Ashes, so way back. Next method dismissal's a great one. We've done really well, Ed. You cleaned up at the over with the LBW, but I do like next method to dismissal individual batsmen. Loads of firms are doing that now. So you remember in that Ashes series when Lyon was on at Lords, he got Zach Crawley out stumped. That's generally a 25-1 shot, and I think Lyon against Crawley in this series is another potential stumping because Crawley does like to charge against spin, and he's not the only one in this England lineup. We've seen Harry Brook go for a walk this summer. Jamie Smith's another one who likes to get a big strike. I think people like Duckett and Root, forget them, they play from the crease, a lot of sweeps. I think Crawley in particular, maybe Ollie Pope as well, but Crawley and Brook would be the two I'm looking at. When Lyon's on and bowling a lot of overs, they're going to look to take Lyon down because I think they'll look at that Australia attack minus Cummins and think if we can get Lyon out of the game, we can really stretch them. Boland's getting on a bit, Hazelwood's had injury problems. They're going to try and take Lyon down, and a lot of them will try and use their feet to do so. Stumping's definitely in the game.
Yeah, Lyon probably the one sort of USP, if you like, across the two teams. By far and away the best spinner, of course, and Shoaib Bashir obviously still learning his trade. While you're doing it at an Ashes series, that's another show. You can also use the code POD25 to get access to the crickstats.ai database for all your best cricket betting needs. We're using it. It's incredibly useful. We're building bets from there. So go and subscribe to that. Let's have another listener question now. It's from friend of the show, Rod Studd. In Rod We Trust, I believe that's the phrase. Rod asks, on the pod, you've often said about test matches being won by the best bowling team. Who has the best bowling attack? Rich, I'll come to you in that in a second. Just a few stats on that. Last 4 years, Lyon, Stark, Cummins, Hazelwood, cumulative average is 22.6 and cumulative strike rate 46.2 against Archerwood, Atkinson, Carth. I think that's fair in saying that's England's best four bowlers. Their cumulative average is 26.7 and strike rate is 48.7. So Australia have an edge on the data, but Rich, you may think differently.
No, well, I've got a little bit more data actually, but to me it comes down all about conditions. If it nips around, I think Australia's seamers have the superior skills. Boland, Hazelwoods and Cummins, if fit, they're talking about him coming later in the series. They'll be too skillful for England. If we get flat pitches, England will fancy they'll be able to get enough runs to be competitive, and ultimately they can just keep banging away and have enough pace to take wickets. But I think, and we've said this for many a year now, they will struggle to contain the run rate on any sort of surface this England attack. So look at these numbers. Archer's test match economy 2.98, Mark Woods 3.31, Carse 3.48, Bashir 3.78, Josh Tongue 4.07. Now Australia's Hazelwood 2.77, Stark 3.41 easy anomaly, but then Boland 2.75, Lyon 2.94 and Cummins 2.88. They're just going to be able, even against this England batting lineup, they're going to be able to contain better, means they can keep more attacking fields because they've got control of that run rate. Things could run away from Stokes, particularly somewhere like Perth where the ball's flying everywhere. It's very hard to be an attacking captain when you're going at fives and over, and I just think Australia's superior skill and ability to hold length for longer does give them the edge. Whether they've got the same depth as England, the battery of pace bowlers that England have brought, that remains to be seen. But I think sort of best 11s or with Boland in, Australia do have the superior skills with the ball.
And by the way, Richard did call it on this podcast in the summer when England was struggling to bowl dry and contain India. I remember you saying, Rich, how are England going to keep things tight in Australia if they can't do it at home? And it was a problem in the summer, and it's going to be a problem again. I think you're correctly identifying what could be the pivotal point in the series when we're trying to find a winner for this series. Right, 0% margin feature at 7bet Sportsbook. The 0% margin feature at 7bet is designed to offer betting odds that don't include the typical margin added by the bookie. Check out more of their features on 7bet.co.uk/features on that 7bet site. Just a look earlier, a nice number of specials, including prices for series, 50s and 100s for batters. Series runs match bets too. Crawley 119 over 100 to outscore Duckett is one which jumped out at me. A bit more to come. We've got another Ashes in play hotspot. We are going to name the winner of the Ashes series and the correct score as well. We've got those best bets at the end of the show, but we want to have a look at top Australia batsman and bowler. Got some win rates for you on these. Labuschagne and Head have 2 wins each from Australia's last 7. Steve Smith has won once. We are on Marnus Labuschagne, the early pick from a few shows ago, and as discussed on the VIP chat in the Ashes Q&A, I think Rich and I both agree that it's pretty much very close to nap territory. Labuschagne was at 5 in 8 tons since he's returned domestically this summer. Prices for you: top Australia series bat, Smith 2-1, MGM Star, Virgin Bet, Head 7-2 General, Khawaja 11-2. You can still get 8-1 Labuschagne 10 bet. Don't get signed up for 10 bet. Green 8. That puts into perspective the Labuschagne price, if you ask me. Sky Bet, Power Betfair, Kerry's 14s General, Webster 20 on the Betfair Exchange. Richard, you haven't changed your mind about Labuschagne in the last 24 hours, have you?
No, I'm really pleased with where we are. Look, he went off 5-2 for this market 4 years ago, and his form's probably as good coming into it, just albeit not in Test cricket. So I'd like to see him at 3, and I think that's what they'll do as well. I think they'll give the best players the best chance to impact the series. Just another one, if you don't like Labuschagne or you're looking for something else, I can't see Carey winning the overall series batsman market, Alex Carey from number 7. But in 2025, he's averaging 47.60, 7 games, 11 innings, 1 ton, 250s. And those are really strong numbers when you consider just how hard for batting it was on that tour of the Caribbean just a few months ago. I mean, it was impossible, and he was making runs. Form excellent. Those 11 innings in 2025, Carey has top scored for Australia 3 times. He's 11-1 top first innings bat for the Perth game. I think if you back him all through the series, I think he'll win once, and it'll pay its way, and he might well cop a second time. Just in excellent form.
Paul, who do you like?
I just want to completely endorse everything you're both saying, really. I like Labuschagne absolutely as the pick. I'm very sceptical about Steve Smith and Travis Head. Part of the reason I'm quite keen on England is that I think Smith's in decline and Head's struggling. And 100% agree with Rich Bet. It's Carey. I mean, we've seen it before. He's always value in the match markets, in each innings market. Massive value. And actually, if you look through these grounds, there's a lot of middle orders, top score. A lot of that goes on. But again, it's probably asking too much to be the top series run scorer. It's not impossible, but it's probably unlikely. So I'll go with Labuschagne for that.
Labuschagne, difficult to find a weakness at the moment. It wasn't so long. He's one of the best batsmen in the world. He can pick holes in pretty much all these Australia top orders batters at the moment. And to that end, Cameron Green, I'll be absolutely amazed if he's not out, caught in the gully or 4th slip at least 3 times in this series. That's one for in play. That's quite a prescriptive one, but not going to get. What's going to be about caught apart from behind the wicket? Maybe sort of 6-4 in play, something like that. Let's look at top bowler. These are Australia prices. Remember, we did England top bat and top bowler last episode. So you can go back and have a look at that for our views on that if you want to play those markets. Stark 23-10 general, Hazelwood 13-5 Betway. He's got the best strike rate of any Australia bowler at 42.6 in the last 4 years. I've not included Boland in that just because of the study sample. His strike rate is 36, but of course he just hasn't played the number of games that Hazelwood has. Boland is 100-30. Bet Victor Star, Coruscant Power, Ladbrokes, Lions 72 Unibet, Cummins at 8s for Spreadex and Sporting Index. Paul, I mentioned the hot, dry summer, thanks to my contact in the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia. Lions most likely to play all 5, I think, because of fitness, and you're going to need a spin bowler. So he's going to get through plenty of overs. And I think you've mentioned it before, haven't you, about Lyon on the top overall series bowler?
Yeah, look, I've changed my mind on it. It's not a market I like a lot, this, to be honest with you, because that is my first instinct, is Nathan Lyon, because not only do we know Cummins is missing, but I don't think it's out of question that one of the others misses a game as well. And England are poor against spin, and he should bowl a lot of overs. But I can't get over how badly he did last summer, and all spinners did last winter in the India series. And actually, again, looking through recent series, there aren't that many wickets fall to spin, whoever the team in Australia. So I'm going to say no. I think it'll be competitive, but somebody, one of them, probably Stark, if I had to pick someone, will get more.
Rich, any views on the market? You can swerve if swerve is as good as a win.
Should mention actually in the show that I put Labuschagne up, I did actually put Stark up in this market at 100-30. I just kind of forgot about it really because I'm all in Labuschagne. But for me, he's the most durable of the Aussie seamers. Hazelwood's the star man without Cummins, but Stark's just a machine. I think he's more likely to play all 5 games. And the other thing with Stark, he's got a day-nighter, and his record in day-nighters is just absolutely amazing. So he I think is the correct favourite. I just want to mention actually player of the series, because it involves Stark. He's 12-1 general for player of the series. If you're an Aussie fan, and I'm beginning to lean towards them, that could be interesting. A player of the series, Labuschagne, 16-1 general. We're talking Labuschagne up. That could be a big price. You'd have to be pro Australia for that, but those are the two. Bet 365 at the moment, but I suspect everyone will catch up. We're also doing individual team player of the series. That's another way you could maybe get Stark and Labuschagne on side. Jamie Smith's actually 8-1 for England in that market, which I thought was interesting.
Right, another Ashes in play hotspot. Now, because I'm extremely sad, I spent hours suffering from number blindness going through data to answer the question, what difference does the new ball make in Australia? So an analysis of the test matches in the last 3 years, working out the average runs per wicket with your first new ball and your second new ball from first innings, second innings, third innings and fourth innings in the match, because often in play we will be talking about shorting runs or maybe going long of runs given the match situation and when a new ball is due or when it's getting particularly old. So I thought there's obviously going to be some cracking angles that we can exploit if we go and look through the data. And unfortunately, there's only one, but I think we can use it to our advantage at some stage throughout the series, and we will marry this up with basically what we're seeing on the TV screens and conditions, and of course the odds have to be right. The good news is it does come in the second innings of the match where we're still getting expectation from the layers on decent runs. So the average runs per wicket with the first new ball in the second innings in Australia in that study period is 33, but in the second innings, it dips with the second new ball to 19.1. So I think there is an angle to exploit there. We'll certainly be looking to utilize that probably in the day-night test. There's very minimal difference in terms of first innings, differences between averages. First new ball, 35.2, second new ball, 38, third innings, first new ball, 23.6, second new ball 20. We're obviously seeing the dip off in runs because pitches are getting tired and the study sample just isn't there for fourth innings. But I think that is something useful for us. So the second innings, that second new ball, we think there's going to be the opportunity to start shorting some runs. Charlie Robertson's got a listener question. And I think, Rich, you're going to take this one. Number one, he's got two. One, if Root fails for the majority of the series, can England still win it? And who would be the panel's pick for top England bat first test and series? Well, you'll have to wait for first test, Charlie. But Rich did cover series bat. Charlie says he's quite keen on Brook, and I think Brook's won 3 of the last 5 top England series bat. Rich?
They can't win if Root doesn't have a big series. So many of these inexperienced as well. Brook, the Kingpin, and Jamie Smith inexperienced in these conditions. They need Root to have a good series. For what it's worth, I'm against Harry Brook. Actually, hasn't played in extreme conditions like this against pace. I think they'll go in with a short ball on these big grounds. So I would be looking elsewhere. I think Ollie Pope's got a chance, and I think Jamie Smith, like Paul said, it's hard for a number 7 to win this market, but I think he'll have a good series, and I think he'll pick up some top bats along the way, if that'll do for you.
Roots gets a century, doesn't he, Rich? I'm convinced he does.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, whether you want to back him at such short odds is a completely different question, given that he hasn't done it yet. But it's not like he's come here and completely struggled. What does he average? 35, and a couple of those tours he was in dreadful teams as well. I mean, look, nobody was going to do well. I mean, they were just shocking. If they play well, I think he'll come good somewhere along the way. He's just a phenomenal player, one of the greatest ever. So I'm not buying all this. Absolutely,
there's nothing at all in terms of conditions in Australia or annoying Australians that means Root struggles out there. There's no sort of hoodoo or statistical quirk. It's just a complete fallacy. Famous last words. Right, it's the big time. Who wins the Ashes and by what score? Pitches, bowler strength, and what actually happens, Richard?
Yeah, so I have gone against England a little bit in the last few days. I was of the mind that I would back 2-2. I think it'd be a close series. I still think it'd be a close series, but I just think Australia's superior skills with the ball will win out, and I'm going for them 3-1. That's not to say 2-2 is not a good starting point if you want to bet that in the correct score, but it's 3-1 for me. I just think their superior skills with the ball wins out. Like, really sort of good example. We talk a lot about extreme pace, but ultimately you do need the skills with it, don't you? And I just think Australia's superior seamers have the skills, proven time and time again, and I don't quite know if we have that.
Paul, are you going to agree, disagree, or go halfway?
Well, my opening bet remains 2-2. I think it is all there to play for, but my instinct probably leans towards England, if anyone. I think the first 2 matches are results, possibly the first 4 quite obviously, so you definitely want to be backing 4-2-2 for that reason as a trade. But regarding the sides, I just think that there comes a time when great sides are over the hill, and Australia are going to hit that, if not now, very soon. A year ago, they lost the first test to India, and we were talking about them getting hammered, whitewashed, and to their immense credit, they turned it around completely. But the warning signs are there. And, the thing that really struck me was how there was no replacement for Warner. When we knew Warner was going to leave sooner or later. And they just panic and find 2 informed Big Bash players in McSweeney and Constance. That doesn't strike me as a team that has much of a long-term plan. It hasn't got much backup. And yes, they've got their first 11 is outstanding, the bowlers in particular, but their successes of recent years, look at those Man of the Match awards I mentioned before. Travis Head's been critical to all of it, and he's had a terrible year. Steve Smith is, I believe, in decline. Not finished, but he's in decline, no question about it. And all it takes is a bad start, and England have the bowlers to do well in Perth. and they're in crisis. The press are going to be on their backs. All it takes is a second bowler injury on top of Cummins, and suddenly there's no backup there either. And okay, so that's all Australia's problems. I'm not saying England are perfect; they're not. Right, they've got their own questions to answer, but they have improved dramatically, including psychologically, since that last terrible tour. And they are much better equipped now. They've got excellent pace bowlers for this tour. And I would say they're clearly the superior batting side by quite some distance. I think that middle order, Root, Brook, Stokes, Smith is the best in the world. You can do anything. The tail can bat. And I'm just confident they can outscore the Aussies if their own bowlers deliver.
All right, I think we do have consensus on the fact that this is going to be tight and it's going to be a competitive series, the like of which we have rarely actually seen down under. Is that fair? Because there hasn't been a competitive Ashes series down under. England won they won 3-1, didn't they, in 2013, wasn't it? When Australia were dreadful. Rich, is this going to be a tight affair?
Yeah, I think Paul is right. The great side is slowly ebbing away, and England are meeting them somewhere in the middle. But they've had 10 goals in Test matches since that famous series when Andrew Strauss and Andrew Flower led England to victory, and England have not won a Test match since. That just tells you the scale of the task facing England. But I have said this for a while. I don't think this Australia team is what it was. I think there are weaknesses on both sides. They're both flawed in different ways, and that's what makes it such a fascinating matchup. Because if England turn up and play the best cricket and get conditions to suit, they could blitz Australia and they could win in innings. But equally, if they get put in first in Perth and it's doing a bit, and Hazelwood and Boland get to work, they could be all out 80 and they could lose in innings. And that is definitely a market I'm going to be looking at somewhere along the way, because even if it finishes 2-2, I could see someone absolutely waltzing one of those Test matches. Probably Australia, because England have just got a stinker in them, haven't they? So close series overall, but really top. Just throw it back to you two. Do you think Australia's weaker suit is their batting than their bowling now? Then, because I think England's still the big issue for them is that they've got a collapse in them. I'm thinking it. You think it? Yeah, because I'm thinking
100%. And I'll tell you the player that springs to mind is Shamar Joseph. Look at the trouble Shamar Joseph has caused them in Australia and the West Indies.
Because we're talking about conditions, and look, the Telegram channel is going to be so important for this, because we are all guessing a little bit about pitches and what Australia will decide to do and what the creators will decide to do. And obviously, we are going to be all over that. But we've talked it before. I think there's going to be some real opportunities for shorting runs along the way with two potentially really fragile batting lineups. I mean, England are great on the day, but they've got 150 all out in them all the time.
Yeah, no question. Extreme unders is going to be a bet in this series regularly.
Yeah, and unders on players and individual players as well. So some of those Australians, as I mentioned, Green. I mean, I think I'm pretty sure I know how to get Green out. So if I've got that view, England also do. They know how to get Smith out with that front pad, with him falling over now. I mean, think back to those great innings that he played over here when he was in the form of his life. There just was no chink in the armour with Smith, but there is now. Head's in dreadful form. Khawaja, they'll get to try and nick off with absolutely minimal foot movement. That back foot is going nowhere with Khawaja. So I think that is correct. And on the point of being correct score prices. The purpose of housekeeping, Australia 3-1. 3-2 win is sevens with Betway. England 3-2, 17-2 Sky Bet, Power Bet for Sportsbook. Australia 3-1 win is sevens generally. England 3-1 win is 14s. Sky Bet 2-2 draw is 17-2 generally. Now, the purposes of clarity, Richard Mann, the Ashes winner, and the score is
Australia 3-1.
There you go. That's 7-1 generally. Paul Krishnamurty, the Ashes series score is
3-2 to England, but I'm going to open with a bet on 2-2 because it's a better trade.
3-2 to England, 17-2 Sky Bet Power Betfair Sports, but 2-2 is also 17-2 generally.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be said, I think, for betting 2-2, 3-2, 3-2 either way.
I agree.
Because the first two results look guaranteed results. And then, say Adelaide and Melbourne, they're also 10 out of 10 results lost.
I think the thing with that bet as well, I mean, if that home at last Ashes series, 2-2, Australia 2-0 up, England down and out. But the one thing you know about this side is they're really good at brushing off a poor performance and bouncing back. England of old, pre-McCullum, they would have lost that home series 4-0, wouldn't they? But actually, they were able to bounce back because I don't really know whether they care or whether it's just instilled in them to just go out and forget a bad performance, but you're never quite out of it with them.
What is true is at the start of a test series is rarely true at the end. I said it 1,000 times before on this show. By the way, Australia to win 3 tests or England to win 3 tests, 2 different bets, of course. On the exact wins market, this is Star Sports, so 13-5 Australia to win 3 tests and England 9-2 to win 3 tests. So you could completely forget about the 1s and the 2s. And just have a simple Australia to win 3 tests or England to win 3 tests. That was a market which jumped out at me. 7-bet special offer for you. Bet £10 and get a £10 free bet courtesy of this podcast with the podcast promo code WFB10. First deposit at minimum £10 stake. Get £10 free bet. Minimum odds evens. Maximum winnings £100. 5-day expiry. Bonus T's and C's do apply. This is the ultimate betting guide to the Ashes, with the cricket betting podcast for 7bet, and the data is powered by crickstats.ai. Get subbed up in the VIP comments below and get tips straight to your phone inbox throughout the Ashes series. We think we've got some really strong angles. Use the code POD25 on Crickstats, by the way, get discount access. It is best bets time for the Ashes series preview. Paul Krishnamurty, what are you going to do with your 5 units this week?
Okay, so I will have 2 points on 2-2 to be the series correct score, to be updated as and when. I'll have 2 points at 13-2 on Bryden Cast being top England wicket taker in the series, again to be updated as and when. And my final point, I will split all on England players to be player of the series. So I have half a point Harry Brook 11-1 with Star Sports, quarter of a point Jofra Archer at 20-1 with Star Sports, and a quarter of a point Jamie Smith at 28-1 with BetMGM live score.
And Richard Mann, please.
Yeah, so I'll kick off a Bet365 side market at 1.5 points. Harry Brook, no ton in the series at 11-10. Half a point 3-1 Australia series correct score, 7-1 general. I've flagged him up. 0.75 points. Jamie Smith, fastest series 50 at 8-1. And I've also bigged up Alex Carey, so I'm going to go 0.75 points, fastest series 50, Alex Carey at 20-1, both with 365. Half a point player of the series, Mitch Stark at 12-1 general. Half a point player of the series, Marnus Labuschagne at 16-1. And then back to Jamie Smith for the final half a point. Jamie Smith, England team player of the series at 8-1. That's also with Bet365.
I'll give you a bonus best bet as well, Corey, 119 over 100. So that's called Duck It, with 7bet in your series match runs bets. Those are your best bets for the Ashes. We've told you who is going to win. There's going to be a 3 in there somewhere by the sounds of it, thanks to Paul and Richard. We're going to be coming back next week, same time, when we preview that first test. And we're going to really do a big data dive. We'll have all the win rates for first and second innings for bats and bowlers. We'll have a really in-depth pitch report from Paul, more in-play hotspots for the Ashes. This has been the Cricket Betting Podcast with the ultimate betting guide to the Ashes, and we'll see you next time.